So this engine spun a main bearing. What happened is in that garbage truck right there, and it rolled over. And according to the GPS readings, it ran for about 9 seconds with no oil pressure. So what we've done is we've pulled it out. We had to remove all the exhaust and the top of the garbage input assembly there to get the engine out. And I pulled apart the top end, checked the cam bearings. It's an overhead cam engine. There's a tiny score on one cam bearing, so we're going to do all the cam bearings. The cam itself is good. And the crankshaft burnt up one, it was this one, number 2 main bearing, melted to the crank. And number 4 had a little bit of damage, but it wasn't too bad. So what we've done is basically we're doing the minimal, well, at least for now, until we receive word from, this is an insurance job because it was a rollover accident, and the insurance company is basically ultimately the one that decides how we proceed from this point. All I can do is take it apart and show them what we found. And at this point, we don't need to remove the head because all the damage was isolated to the crankshaft. Because it only ran for a few seconds, we did end up getting a few pieces of metal up to the top end, but not enough to go through the rest of the system. As you can see here, I'm wiping them out. All these connecting rod journals are basically mint, and we already knew that. I'm just wiping them out just to make it more obvious. The insurance company pays us to drop the oil pan and pull 2 main caps, which are usually, we'll pull the main oiling cap, which is the middle one, and another one. So I think it was just the most convenient one that was available. I can't remember which one it was. It was probably this one right here, actually. We saw some damage on this one, and we were like, hey, this doesn't look good. It's tough to tell if it was from low oil pressure or from just, neglect of maintenance, because, sometimes these engines don't get oil changes frequently enough. So at that point, we were saying, okay, it needs main bearings, but I'm not convinced that it's part of the accident. And then we pulled the oil filters and we cut them apart. And then we found that there was basically almost no metal. Like there was a couple of tiny pieces of metal in there, but if this thing was run down from neglect, there would be a lot more metal in there than there was. So at that point, we were like, okay, well, maybe it is a result of the accident. So anyways, we started putting main bearings in it. We got this one in, that one in, and then we opened number 2. And that's when we found it welded together. I literally had to go, my apprentice was doing the job and he called me and he's like, man, this is, there's something wrong here. You got to come and have a look. So I went and had a look, and we realized I literally had to take a hammer and chisel and peel that bearing off the crank like an orange peel with a hammer and chisel. It was ugly. So at that point we were like, okay, well now we have to pull the crank. I mean, there's no way you can fix that in the engine or in the truck even. So here we are now, basically shredding it all apart to see how far the damage goes. And as far as we can tell, the crank's damaged, the cam is good. We'll put a set of cam bearings in it just because we found a tiny little scratch on it that could have been from the accident, or it could have been part of the removal process. Because what I think, all right, I'll just show you. Okay, so this is the suspect cam bearing, and as you can see, there's a little scratch from here to there. And then when I removed this, the piece of metal was stuck in that little hole right there. And as I removed the cam bearing, the piece of metal may have been actually not stuck in the hole, but stuck up here. And as I removed the cam bearing, it scraped along there. So honestly, that's not that bad, but like I said before, it's a result of the accident, and that's how the insurance company works, is any damage as a result of the accident is part of the claim. So brand new cam bearings and brand new cams aren't perfectly mated at the molecular level. And after they run for a while, they break in. So if I went and put a brand new cam bearing in this one journal and the other 6 had broken in bearings, then we'd get uneven wear and potentially premature failure down the road. So we don't want to do that. So basically one cam bearing's broken, we change them all. As you can see on these rollers, this is all the rockers for the injectors and the valves. They run directly on the camshaft and everything's nice and mint. There's no damage at all, just regular wear, break-in wear. And once again on the connecting rod bearings, you can see they're mint. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's brand new looking, which is actually saying something because these are the bottom half of the connecting rod, and this bearing absorbs all of the force of the piston firing and coming down. And the fact that these these bearings are so clean, it's not possible for this engine to have run and been neglected and these bearings still be so nice. So once again, just more evidence that the damage came from the accident. So this here is the crank journal that had the damage. It's kind of hard to see. It's probably going to be almost impossible to see on video, and then so anyways, this here is the other bearing that we had to polish. Now, we polished them both with hand emery back down to spec, basically within 0.5 thousandths, which is like perfect. You know, I'm pretty sure that's better than factory spec. So the journal diameter is good. The only question is those little nicks in there. Now this is where it comes up to the insurance company, because I told them, I said, well, technically it's not right. Technically that is bad. Now it comes down to, well, could you send it or not? Now, if it was my engine, I'd send it. But first of all, it's not my engine. Second of all, it's a customer that's going to be paying, well, whether it's the customer or the insurance company, it doesn't matter. It's a $40,000 to $50,000 job by the time all the parts and the labor are settled on this, not including the body work from the rest of the rollover. So I told them, I said, you could probably send it, but I'm not warrantying it. So a new crankshaft is $8,000 Canadian, and that's the difference. So I told him, I says, the only way I'm warrantying this job is if it has a new crankshaft, or we can send it to a crankshaft shop and have them grind it down to an undersize and put an undersized bearing in it, which is another option, but that's a few $1,000s as well. So any other engine shop would probably just tear the whole thing down right away, which is not, that's technically the right thing to do. But because we're in between the point where this could be a new potential customer and an insurance company, we don't exactly know who's going to be paying the bill at this point. So if it ends up being the insurance company, they're going to pay to have the whole thing rebuilt, and that's fine. But if it ends up being the customer, then we're going to basically do only what's necessary and end up saving him, potentially $10,000 or more.
Show me the money.
So that's why we're doing it like this, because if it means that I win a new customer out of the deal by, doing only what's necessary instead of what technically is supposed to happen on paper, well, that's why I'm where I'm at. Because when you know how things work, you don't have to do what it says on paper. You just do what needs to be done.